Welcome back, legends. This is the weekend interview on the Inside Running podcast. This week I'm taking you back to episode number 70. This was actually the week before Moose ran his PB for the marathon at Lake Biwa when he ran 2:14. So I found that interesting when I was listening back, finding where to cut it to just get to the Pat Carroll interview. Moose was talking about travelling over to Biwa. So if you're really interested in what kind of training he was doing just before then, I'd recommend going back listening to like episode number 65, 66, 67, 68. That would be the middle of his meaty marathon block bit there. You can access all our past interviews on Podbean if you want to go back and listen to all of them. So yeah, we're talking about March 2019. Croaks did this one with Pat Carroll. Pat's super versatile, which Croaks says in the introduction, 3:39 1500 metre guy and a 2:09 marathon. He often is very prominent online still. You often see him putting in comments about how he's still got that Australian soil record for the half marathon, fastest Australian ever on Australian soil for the half marathon. A very entertaining character. I think you'll enjoy this one for sure. So if you've got a long run, plug it in. It'll get you through 60, 70 minutes. And yeah, Croaks does a great job on this one. A massive thanks to all the listeners at the moment. Last week's numbers were massive, biggest week in the history of Inside Run podcast. So we really appreciate you guys there. Have a good long weekend. I think maybe not. Maybe does the whole of Australia have a long weekend this weekend? I think so. Maybe not. I could be completely wrong there. I think I am wrong actually. I've backtracked really quick there. Enjoy this chat. Enjoy your weekend. If it's 3 days or 2 days. Cheers, guys. See you later.
All right, this week's guest is arguably Australia's most versatile distance runner. He has run 3:39 for 1500 and is Australia's fourth fastest marathoner of all time with a PB of 2:09:39. He also continues to make large contributions to the sport through his coaching and race announcing. Welcome to Inside Running, Pat Carroll.
Hey, Brad. Great to join you this afternoon, mate.
Yeah, thanks for your time. You've been on our hit list for a while, so I'm really excited to sort of pick your brains about running and talk about your amazing career. So
yeah, more than happy to chat, mate. So what do you got?
So first one, I guess, how did you get into the sport? Because I read somewhere that you really didn't start to get serious till like your early 20s or so.
Yeah, so apologies to those who've listened to podcasts before with me banging on about how I got into running, but yeah, a bit different to 99% of the people who have gone through as an elite runner. I didn't really do anything when I was at school, sport-wise, maybe a little bit in my younger years, but certainly nothing in the later years. Anyway, when I left school, I took up karate, and I was into karate in a very big way, lived and breathed it, and I used to run on the nights I didn't do karate. And eventually, you know, I got a little bit jack of the karate, and running just sort of took over. It just sort of suited my personality because, you know, I don't mind doing things by myself. And I found running, I could just hop out the door and just go for a run, whereas I was getting a little bit jack of hopping in the car and having to drive the other side of town to go to a karate class or something. And when I was sort of supplementing the karate with the running, I was going for some reasonably long runs, you know, and with no direction, no thought to take the running anywhere, but just to get as fit as I could, you know, with the karate. Anyway, so eventually the karate faded out and the running took over. So I sort of started doing a few fun runs and then a group of guys. And at this point in time, I still had no idea that what I wanted to do with running or whatever. I just enjoyed running. And a few guys took me under their wing and asked me to join their athletics club because they had a cross-country relay race coming up. One of those guys is Gary Mayer, who you spoke to a month or so ago, I believe, Gary Mayer.
Yep.
And so Gary was very instrumental in my early days of my running, along with three other blokes. And so they took me under their wing, and I just started training with them. So at this point, you know, I was probably 20 years old, and I didn't even know a marathon existed. And they were training for the Gold Coast Marathon, so I just started running with them, and basically just blossomed from there. But mate, this is back in the day when if you're out for a run, people would throw fruit at you.
Yeah. So you had no idea of sort of our top run, like our history in the sport and things like that?
Oh no, not at all. No, I would have been 20 years old and I wouldn't have known I might have maybe heard of Ron Clark or whatever, but maybe Herb Elliott, but certainly wouldn't have known the name Derek Clayton. But as I was about to run my first marathon, I started to get a bit more involved in the current day and very much followed Deke's career. And when I ran my first marathon, the Gold Coast Deke was actually there as a guest of the event. So that's the first time I actually saw him, was at the pastor dinner at the Gold Coast Marathon in 1982. So he was training for the Commonwealth Games then, so I think they brought him up, and he just did a bit of training there here in Queensland pre Commonwealth Games. So so I certainly started to get an idea of who the current crop was. But like when Deke was 1982 Commonwealth Games, I had no belief that I would take it anywhere. I was on the finish line when he crossed the line. I thought that's sensational and whatever, but I never knew that I'd get anywhere. And the amazing thing is that was 1982, and then in 1987 I made my first Australian team. That was a World Cross Country Championship in New Zealand. And I was sitting on a plane beside Deke, and Deke's in the team, and I'm going, bloody hell, I'm sitting beside Deke. And I said to him, I said, you're the reason why I'm bloody here today, because you inspired me at the Commonwealth Games. So I went from basically zero to representing Australia in 5 years. So
you basically trained up straight for a marathon. That was your introduction to running. You were pretty much going straight to the marathon.
I might have been doing a little bit. I don't think I did any track then for my first marathon, but I did eventually go to track. But certainly had no history in track, I don't think, leading into my first marathon. But then these guys, they said, well, you've got to run track now, Pat. So these were back in the days when in Queensland here, we would have our track meets on a Saturday in the middle of the day, and it was just bloody horrific. It was horrific, and they didn't have them in the evening because they had a constitution that the timetable was this, and it's not changing. So they actually had to meet to pass a thing at the board meeting that they would start because they would start holding evening meets. But forever and a day in Queensland, if you were running at 5,000 metres, you're doing it bloody 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of summer.
Not conducive to quick times, that's for sure. So what age were you when you ran your first marathon?
So I was short of 21.
Right.
So I can remember. I think the Gold Coast Marathon was in July. It was still in June or July, and I can remember being at my 21st with a large poster of me, proudly going around at my 21st with a large poster of me with two women in bloody bikinis either side of the finish line, finishing, which I've still got, finishing the Gold Coast Marathon. So I was just short of 21.
And what did you run?
2:48.
Okay. And do you think though, like starting running later in life prolonged your career? And now that you coach, do you recommend youngsters training hard early?
I don't. Well, you need to have a crystal ball to work that one out. But I certainly was, very fired up in my early 20s. But I don't think, if I started any early. I mean, look at the likes of Mona and Sean Crichton and Troopy. I mean, they all went through the junior years with their running, and they still managed to go extremely well. So I don't think it would have had any difference. I don't have anything to do with kids. So if anyone contacts me and they go, I've got a 13-year-old little Jimmy, can you help him out? I say, no, I'm sorry. So I just tell kids, I just say, look, kids should be kids. Go and let them run with other kids and have fun. And so I deal with kids. But I certainly, if anyone was giving me any advice, then I'd say, look, just let them run whatever they want to. Just don't drive them. Don't make them run anything ridiculous, whatever. Just because you are still growing when you're a teenager, so you don't want to interfere with that.
Yeah. And what was the turning point for you to go from, say, your 2:48 debut? Like, did you have some sort of breakthrough race where you went, you know what, I really want to focus on running now? Like, is there a turning point?
Well, they used to have these, Brisbane Road Runners Club used to have these, which they still have every couple of weeks, but I used to go in them, and I think back then they were only every month. Well, I used to go on a monthly run out at the Queensland University, and they were over 10K, 15K, 20K, and even 30K. You do around a 5K circuit. And so I was, in awe of these guys and women. These guys who were winning these races, I was in awe of them, and I thought they were demigods, And so I started, placing like third, second. Then I started winning them, Yeah. So and the whole thing was just a surprise for me all the way along. Like, I didn't, the majority of people, men and women, you go through your running career and you go, well, look, I want to represent Australia in the Olympics. I want to do this or do that. Well, I never had that as a carrot for me. It was just like, I just want to see where this is going to take me, and all the time it was just a surprise.
Yep.
And so but I was an incredibly tough trainer. So basically my own mission statement was I wanted to be the best that I could be.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I didn't put any ceiling on it. I just knew that a time was going to come when it was all going to be over, and I would be, at an age that I am now, and and with zero ability to run well, because I was aware that I was going to age. So I basically, in my early 20s, I made a pact with myself. Well, this is what I'm going to do with my life while I've got the body and the mind to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what were you doing were you studying, working? What were you doing while you were running?
Yeah, I did a few jobs, but I did an apprenticeship as a cabinet maker.
Yeah.
So I was doing reasonably heavy work from. I started my apprenticeship late, so possibly when I was from 20 through to 25, I was doing manual work throughout the day. So I was we did kitchens, so we're building kitchens, and so a lot of lifting, half, the half size of a kitchen up bloody half dozen flights of stairs, doing that sort of thing. Going downstairs, getting the next part of the kitchen, carrying it up with another bloke. So almost a bit like a furniture movalist sort of thing. But and then putting it in, blah blah blah. So I can remember, driving out to training in the afternoon at ANZ Stadium and almost falling asleep in my car before I even got out of the car because I was just so knackered from working during the day. But then I moved on from there, and I can remember when I ran 2:10 at the Gold Coast, I was putting in ceilings in a new building in town, so suspended ceiling. So when you put in a suspended ceiling, you're up on scaffolding and you're drilling into concrete ceilings with a drill. You're throwing in dyno bolts, and you're lining up this grid. You're filling the grid in. So I'm doing the suspended ceiling. So I did the suspended ceilings on two large buildings in town for about a year, right?
Yeah.
And so the Thursday, when I ran 2:10 at the Gold Coast, I think I had Friday off, but I definitely did the ceilings on Thursday. You're drilling into the ceiling, you're getting all this dust over you and all this sort of crap. Anyway, so Saturday ran 2:10 at the Gold Coast. Monday back putting ceilings up, and I can remember being in the lunchroom with all these guys. They're all smoking and stuff, and I'm on the front page of the bloody sports paper.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while, but then I gave it away.
And so winning Gold Coast. So running 2:10 at Gold Coast in 1988. Do you pick up much prize money for that?
Oh, mate, I think it might have been a trip to Honolulu or something, Honolulu
okay.
Marathon, maybe I think it might have been $5,000 or something.
Yeah.
At a guess. It wasn't much. I think it was it was about $5,000. Yeah.
And so during those sort of mid to late 80s, were you did you have an official coach, or you're sort of doing your own thing, or?
Yeah, so I always followed the same sort of training that Deke did, and read about him and read his books or whatever, and so in '88 I actually went down to Canberra. So Pat Clahessy was head of track and field distance running down in Canberra then. So he contacted me and said, you should come down here. This is after I ran 2:10.
Yeah.
So in the end of '88, I went to Canberra, and I was down there for about 7 or 8 years. Lived in Canberra, and very much under Pat Clahessy's training philosophy and training with Pat's group and whatever. So I guess Pat Clahessy had an immense input into my running career.
And when you ran 2:10 on the Gold Coast, what sort of mileage were you running a week then?
Yeah, so it never changed all the way through. You there, mate?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, just losing you a bit. It never changed all the way through. So I would run on average 180k a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, but throughout the year 180k. And but I would train all year round. So I often used to hear about these guys saying, I'm not fit, or I'm getting fit. So I never quite understood that, because I was fit all year round, because I never stopped training.
So you never had too many injury problems throughout your career?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I had major setbacks, stress fractures in the early days, both legs, and I had Achilles op one stage, and then when I was coming back from the Achilles op, I did all this intense work in the swimming pool for hours on end in a swimming pool, and then when I got out of the pool, the physio said, right, you start to do a bit of jogging now with this Achilles pat. Anyway, I had this bloody pain in my hip. Anyway, I gave myself a stretch fracture in the hip from pool running.
Yeah.
And so that put me out for longer than the Achilles injury. So I was out for another 3 months with the hip injury. So I had some weird stuff, I had some neurological stuff going on with muscles and whatever. So I definitely had my fair share of setbacks. Don't you worry about that.
And moving to the AIS, how does that look from a work-life balance? Did you find a job in Canberra, or you were just full-time athlete at that point?
Oh yeah, I had jobs in Canberra. They were pretty Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, okay.
They were just part-time stuff, and but it was definitely a good move for me, because it was such a great place to train.
Yeah.
And Canberra's there's a lot of great places to train. I mean, Adelaide, whatever, but Ballarat, I've never been there, but I believe Monners always says it's great. So, but as opposed to Brisbane, and also in Brisbane, I didn't have anyone to train with. Like, no one could run with me.
Yeah.
I'd go for an easy run, and this guy's sprinting beside me. So I'd go for an easy run, and guys would be doing run-throughs before we would go for a run.
Yeah.
But I was running a bit too quick by myself when I was up here, so I was getting along at a fair clip after, and I didn't know it, because when I moved to Canberra, they're all saying to me, mate, you got to slow down. You're just going too bloody quick here.
Yeah. Because I met you once at Sean's place. It must have been before you were doing an announce the next day, and I know you guys are big fans now of training for distance is pretty easy. It's long on your long days and super easy on your easy days and hard on your hard days. I know you're pretty much the same sort of philosophy as Sean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you polarised training. You're either going hard or you're going slow. So tried and it's tested and gone. It served us well, and so. It's just the other one is it's just consistency. You got to stay away from those injuries and just continually stress your body at a manageable workload, manageable pace, year after year after year, and just get stronger and stronger.
I doing a bit of research for this interview. I looked up obviously all your PBs, and one thing that's probably quite unique, other than your marathon PB, the rest of your PBs were set domestically, which I reckon in this day and age would be pretty rare if you looked at Australia's top distance runners. I'll just so the listeners know sort of what calibre of athlete you were. I'll just quickly go through your PBs and correct me if they're wrong, but 3:39.03 set in Canberra. 7:47.66 for the 3,000 metres set in Sydney, 13:25.49 for the 5K set in Melbourne, 28:30 for the 10,000 metres set in Canberra. That's quite a. You don't see too many people running their PBs in Canberra these days for 10K. Half marathon 61:11 in Sydney, which is the fastest half marathon ever run on Australian soil, and 2:09.39 in Beppu. So what was it about racing domestically? It was just it's just so much depth back then, or
I mean, I don't know if that's such a great thing actually, because I think if you're an international athlete, then you want to be running well overseas, don't you?
Yeah, true.
So
true.
I get I didn't. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I just like the home environment. Maybe I didn't travel as well as others do. It is a big thing.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing, but some people handle the travel better than others.
And
so I did manage to run well in Japan on a number of times in different marathons. But I guess I've never really until you put this to me now. Thought about why did I run well here? I guess I just I'll put it to your mates. Why do they go overseas and not run the Gold Coast Marathon? So it is a lot going for you when you can run domestically, and you got the support of everyone around you and whatever.
And sort of in that the fact that when you were running, you had the guys like your Deeks and your Moners, and so do you think having those guys around almost raised the bar in that, you expected to run sub 2:10 because these guys that you were training with are doing that, whereas, in the past 15 years we haven't had guys doing that, so, you sort of rise to the level of the people that you're
definitely
around?
Oh, definitely. Success breeds success. So, if you've got someone there and you can see that this is, achievable, then. But I think for me, it was I guess, I sort of just I was inspired. So I was inspired by fellow Australians doing so well.
Yeah. So
that very much inspired me. So, But let's not digress. But while I've got the opportunity, the current crew are just blowing me away about how sensational they are, both the women and the men. So we're on the cusp of greatness with the Australians that are coming through now.
Yeah.
And but I would like to see some maybe cut their teeth a bit more on not to single anyone out, but the marathon's something you need. If we're talking marathon here, the marathon is something you need to do the big Ks for a number of years before you go to the marathon.
Yep.
Right. So I think if the young crew now coming through, if they can be a little bit patient and get 2 or 3 years of some really solid Ks under their belt, and like Jack Rayner, God knows where that guy's going to end up running. But I believe he's running London, and I wish him all the best. And Jack could end up being one of our greatest marathon runner ever, time wise.
Yeah, I agree.
And but and I would say this to him if I saw him in a meeting or face to face, that I don't know if he'll run his best marathon now, but he would needs to have a good 2-3 years behind you, 4 years, 5 years of just long runs every Sunday, just long runs every Sunday, just over long tough hills and just get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, it's well said, Pat, because we actually had Brett Robinson on both before and after his debut in Fukuoka, and he put together a pretty good sort of 8-week block. But as you said, it doesn't come down to 8. You can't sort of prepare for a marathon in 8 weeks. And he's been running consistently, probably 100-mile weeks, but it's not the marathon type weeks. It's not the 2.5 hours every Sunday type thing. So might take those boys a little bit longer. Which brings,
I wish them all the best. Yeah.
Which brings me to marathon training, because I know that you're a big believer of the way that Deke trained, which was generally quite short, sharp sessions, 20, 30 minutes, and like super long runs, but not necessarily running at marathon pace. Now, you obviously know that there's been a big change recently in sort of these running marathon specific sessions, whether it be like 4x5K or 5x5K or 40K at 90% marathon effort. Do you believe in that type of training?
Well, I'll be honest with you, mate. I'm not really up with what the current crop are doing, so that's all news to me.
Yeah, okay.
So I spend most of my days watching music videos.
All right. Well, I'll ask it in a different way.
Let me say. But I mean, we're talking old school here. I went through old school. I mean, I do the online coaching. I do my Brisbane running group, whatever. Yep. I'm old school, right? Tried, true, and tested. And I guess one thing that really sold for me once is I did see this presentation by this guy who was talking about polarized training, and they did a study on different athletes, swimmers, cyclists, runners, cross-country skiers, whatever. And they had, some of them doing, a lot of threshold work. So a lot of them, majority of their training was at like 70%, 80% effort, like a lot of the time just running around hard, whatever. And some of them just running slow all the time, some of them running very quick all the time. And then a control group which did like 10% intense and 90% aerobic, right? Mm-hmm. And out of all the different sports that were involved, the group that did the polarized training, which 10% like flat to the boards, 10%, not 90% jogging around, that was the group out of all the sports, all the 4 sports, the groups that followed that philosophy of training. That's the group that improved the most. Yeah.
Like, I know it's true and tested, but the thing I've always found fascinating is that, your sessions, those, quarters, for example, it's like 15 minutes. And your
it's not much, is it?
And your long run, and your long runs are long, but they're like, nowhere near marathon pace. So,
but we did bloody. I mean, you still in Canberra?
Yeah. So I've done. Yeah, I know Stromlo's. Have you done awesome. Stromlo? Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Well. Yeah. Stromlo. Like that's what I'm talking about. The hills. I mean, they were bloody hard. I mean, I went back there, half a dozen years ago for that Stromlo Forest thing, the Stromlo Running Festival one time, and I ran over some of the hills I used to run over my long run. I almost need to get a car to take me over them.
So you would surge the hills?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
100%. So we would attack the hills. So it was a solid long run.
Yeah.
It was tough. It was tough.
Well, that 18-miler hill's still there. That sort of roller coaster one that goes up to Uriara Road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
I was running up there. I got two. I was running up there one time with Deke, and there was silence, and just him and I, Miller Summer, shirts off, running up this bloody long hill, and he starts reciting the Man from Ironbark, and he recited the Man from Ironbark from Go to Way. He went through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right, the Man from Ironbark. But so a lot of memories there. We used to finish up at the Stromlo Observatory.
Yeah.
And there was a fire hydrant up there, and we come out of the bush onto the road at the Stromlo Observatory, and there was a fire hydrant. That was the first time we would have a drink during the run. So the first time we have a drink would be at the 2-hour mark, and that was out of a fire hydrant. So we would there was a star picket that was there, so they would use this star picket to turn the wheel on the fire hydrant at the top, and jemmy it in and turn it on. All this water would bloody piss out, so we'd have a drink from that.
Yeah.
And so mate, I'm not going to pass comment on what the guys are doing now. I do believe you need to race, a lot. So once again, Jack Rayner, he does a lot of racing, which is fantastic, and very competitive, and so that's the sort of thing you need to do. So you do your short, sharp sessions, you do your longer work, but you also do your races. And when you get in there and you race, there's no tomorrow. You see the surfs and go up and do beta breakers and the road circuit in America, whatever. Deke used to do a lot of the Mona, used to do the road circuit over there, and Bloomsday and all those sort of races, and be just really hard sort of road races.
So you try and get a race in every 3 weeks or so?
Probably every 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
It's really interesting you say that about your long runs, because I reckon there's a bit of a misconception there that guys like Deke and Mona, they didn't do any sort of a lot of hard running in their long runs, but the fact that you're running over hills at a decent clip.
Yeah. And I know Mona's run in Ballarat there was a hilly one, and Sean and I used to run together down there over the Stromlo Hills. So and even when I was in Brisbane here before I went down, I used to go down to Daisy Hill down here, and that's a hilly area.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never. When I was running, the only time I would run on the road is if I was going to or from a forest or a park.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would never just go for a flat road run or whatever. I just I'd always be going. All my running was off road.
Yeah. Let's talk about a couple of your, standout performances. I might start with the 61:11 in Sydney. Now, is that a similar course to the Sydney Morning Herald where it's run now?
No, nowhere near it. So it started directly underneath the Harbour Bridge.
Yep.
And it went out past Circular Quay, chucked the left Hickson Road, I think it is. So you follow Hickson Road with Darling Harbour on your right. So you go right down the very end, chuck the left up. It was Ballarat Street or something, I believe, or something like that, or Bendigo Street or something. So you go up, you turn left, which is a reasonable climb. So you go left up to the far end of Hyde Park, right?
Yep.
So you'd head back to, I'll give you the little finish soon. You head back to the city, through the middle of Hyde Park, down to Mrs. Macquarie's Chair, back up the Art Gallery, down Macquarie Street, down Circular Quay, down to Pier 1, and then another lap. So we did the Mrs. Macquarie's Chair part twice, right?
Yeah, which is not flat.
No, it's not. So you actually there's some few lumps actually going down there.
Yeah.
Right. To Mrs. Macquarie's Chair, and when you come back from Mrs. Macquarie's Chair, you're climbing all the way from Mrs. Macquarie's Chair up to the Art Gallery, and up to Macquarie Street. From Mrs. Macquarie's Chair to Macquarie Street, there's you're climbing the whole time. So we did that twice.
And how much did you win by that day?
Yeah, I ran 61:11. Mine ran 62:52.
Yeah, would you put that up as your best performance?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, either that or the marathon. I mean, obviously, but when you look at my run, that would be Mono was a world record holder at the time. Well, I'm not sure if he lost it, but he was certainly. If he wasn't a world record holder then, he was only a year off from being the world record holder. Yeah. So he was running well.
Because you think that's got to be worth 30, 40 seconds on a dead flat pancake course.
Yeah, either that or a bit quicker, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think the only person who would break even the Sydney Morning Herald course now. I mean, it's still, and no matter which way you run it, Sydney's a hilly city. You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would definitely be worth a low 60, if not a bit quicker. Yeah.
And Beppu. So what was so obviously you remember that one fondly.
Yeah.
So what was the plan with that race? Did you think you were going to run sub 210?
Yeah, well, I wanted to run around 210, so I went over there the year before as a pace runner. So my deal was to take the 211 group through to 30k the year before. So I did that. So the year before, I think I ran 211.40 or something. I think I came fourth the year before, and so I wanted to go back there. So they said, yeah, you can come back, but but you have to pace. You know, like they weren't to get an airfare and a couple of dollars. They said you're going to have to pace again. So I went like, okay, no worries, I'll come over. But I said to them, look, when I'm up at the elite athlete table thing, and I'm talking to fellow runners, I said, look, guys, I just want to let you know I'm going to finish this thing. I'll take the group through at 210, 211 pace, but when we get to 30k, which my commitment's over, I said I'm still going to finish the thing. And back in those days, when in Japan, because Japan was always been very pure and such an amazing country, but back then they didn't want people to know that they employed pace runners. So when you got to 30k, they would say, well, okay, well, if you're going to stop, we don't want you to stop. Just look like you've blown a hamstring or something.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're on camera, this one didn't want to see you, just nonchalantly, bloody step off the road. So, but I had every intention of finishing. So anyway, I believe it's changed now. But anyway, so I got to my obligation at I got to 25k, and I could see the lead group up, not too far up ahead. And in that lead group was the Olympic bronze medalist from the 2 years prior, and also Densimo, who was the world record holder at the time. So they were in the lead group. So I could see them just up ahead. So at 30k, I actually got up into the lead group. So when you turn for 30k, I think it's 30k around about there, you turn your head back to Beppu. It's a little bit of a climb, got the ocean on the left-hand side. So anyway, so it came down to, I think, just down to 3. And then it came down to myself and this Stefan Freigang, who was the Olympic bronze medalist from, must have been Barcelona. And so we had a ding-dong battle over the last, say, 5, 6, 7k, whatever, like back and forth sort of thing. Like he'd go forward, I go forward. And then I just took off and I dropped him. So, and he still ended up running a PB. He ran like 210, just over 210, and that was actually a PB for him.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Which brings us to the Olympics. Now, like, I don't want this to come across wrong, but like, I would say that you were probably our greatest ever runner to not go to an Olympic Games. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess my question.
I was having a good day until now. But anyway, yeah.
No. So my question is, you come out and you run 2:09:39 in 1995, so a year before Atlanta. Just curious what occurred in, I guess, from like 92 through to 2000 Olympics, as to, was there selection issue, like were there issues with AA or?
Well, I qualified for 4 Olympics, but I didn't go to 1. So 88. I was actually the second fastest Australian before the Seoul Olympics, but they'd already picked the team, so that's fine. So when I ran Gold Coast July, the team was already picked with Brad, Mona, and Deek, so that's fine, no problems there. But I actually had a PB quicker than Mona when Mona was at the Olympics.
Yeah.
But anyway, so and then 92 and 96. One of them was a track year, and they wanted us. Lordy and I had both qualified, but we had to go to Europe and prove ourselves on the track in Europe. And I think we both ran around the 13:50 mark or something. So they went, "No, you're not good enough to be in the team. You can go home." So that was the Olympics that year. Another year. Oh yeah, okay. So that was the 5,000 meters that I missed out on. I'm in Europe, and they said, "No, mate, you're not running well enough. You can go home." Whereas now they don't seem to do that sort of trial thing or fitness test thing prior, because I've seen people go to teams now that haven't been performing well before.
Yeah.
The year I was totally shafted was 96. So I'd run 2.9 the year before, and also had my 61.11 to my credit. And then Athletics Australia came up with this great idea that they were going to have a trial, and again, the trial they were going to have was going to be the Beppu Marathon. And they were going to fly Australians who had qualified for whatever reason, whatever standard. They would fly Australians to Beppu for this trial race, right? Anyway, so when I heard it was Beppu, I thought, well, that's okay. I've run there the last 2 years. So I'll run there again this year, and it'll be the Australian trial, and I'll bloody go to the Olympics. Anyway, so my manager contacted them. They said, no, we don't want Mr. Carroll because he's run here the last 2 years. And so we don't want him in our race for the third year in a row. You know, we like mixing things up a bit. So so anyway, so I got an offer for $40,000 US to run in Biwa a month later. So what's one do? What does one do? I'm living in a 1-bedroom unit at the Institute of Sport. My daughter was literally living in a cupboard. She was literally living in a cupboard. And Athletics Australia weren't going to give me exemption from the trial. They gave Monitor exemption, but that's well and good because he's Monitor, and he did run 2:10 in Tokyo just before, but they did give him exemption. That's fine. We got no problems with that.
Yeah.
But they weren't going to give me exemption, so I'm thinking, well, okay, so the qualifying was 2:14, so I'm thinking, well, you know, I don't think any of the Australian guys will run under 2:14. So I thought I'll take my chances and I'll run bloody Biwa. Anyway, so and not to be disrespectful at all to Sean Quilty and Rob De Castella, right? Lovely fellas, and travelled with them for years and whatnot. But they both went to Beppu and they both qualified. So they ran. I think one of them ran 2:13.30, and the other one ran like 2:13.57 or something. So he qualified by 3 seconds or something.
Right? Yeah.
So, but once again, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just stating facts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went to Biwa. I came fourth in Biwa in 2:12. So I had my 2.9, I had my 61.11, I had my fourth in Biwa in 2:12, and the pricks didn't pick me.
Yeah. And even though AA were aware that you'd pretty much been told that you couldn't race Beppu, AA were aware of that?
They weren't interested. No,
yeah.
It was a Melbourne mafia back then.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And so you must look at it now.
Victorian mafia.
Mafia. So how does it sit with you now that, you know, the standards are obviously being relaxed a lot more, and, you know, the last Olympics, I think, Westcott ran maybe 2:15 to be selected?
Doesn't bother me at all. Bother me at all what happens now.
Yeah.
So, you know, good luck to them. You know, so I don't wish I was born in this era or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was shafted, and you know, one of the selectors, I saw them after that, and she couldn't look me in the eye, and so it was disappointing. Like even today, I actually saw today a photo on the net of those three guys at that Olympics.
Yeah, okay.
And that guts me.
Yeah.
You know? But you know, I put my family first, and I got no problems with that. But you know, it's something that I've got to carry. It's only certain times at days or whatever it sort of pisses me off, and
when you get pricks interviewing you and bring it up.
No, not that. But it's just it would have been nice to be sitting here now knowing that I'm an Olympian, and you know, I'm not. But that's just life, mate. I mean, I'm alive, and I've got a brother who passed away 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's be disrespectful to John for me to live the rest of my life bloody tripping over my bottom lip when over something like that when you know, he's not even here.
Yeah.
So
well said. And I think 209.39 marathon definitely worth getting to the Olympics for, that's for sure. So what happened in 2000? Were you going to give
that
a
was
crack?
That was the Olympic trial. So believe it or not, bloody Beppu had me back. The pricks, they had, not the pricks, but they had me back.
Yeah.
They had me back the following year, and so I ended up going to Beppu 3 times. So they had me back the next year.
Yeah.
And I ran like 2:11.50 or something, right? So I qualified for the Olympics. I was the second fastest, I think, behind Mona qualifying. And they had a trial, which was the Sydney Olympic, which I heard you talking to Gary Mayo about about a month ago. And so they had a trial, and without playing my violin here, I had a hamstring issue and also had other issues. I had like a medical issue beforehand. So I ran hopeless and didn't get picked, it's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I did receive a letter, which I did somewhere. I did receive a letter. They put me as a reserve. So somewhere in my scrapbook is a letter from Athletics Australia saying that you are a reserve for the 2000 Olympic marathon. So that's the closest I got to being the Olympics. I was the orange boy for the 2000.
So how many spots were up for grabs at the trial?
I think 2, because Mona had. I think actually that might have been the year Mona ran 2:10. Maybe it might have been the year Mona ran 2:10.
Yeah.
At in Tokyo, so they gave Mona exemption from that trial also, which is fine because he was the best in the world. So so no, you wouldn't have had it any other way, right? So that's fine. But so they gave him exemption.
Yeah, and you speak a little. So you've obviously run a lot of, pretty much all of the major Japanese marathons. How do you think so Beppu and Biwa are very similar?
No, Biwa is a better course.
Yeah.
Biwa is pancake flat. Biwa is the best marathon course I've ever run. I never ran Berlin, but Biwa is definitely the best marathon course I've ever run on.
Well, I agree. Well, I did that one last year, and
right.
there's that one little rise where you have to do twice, but other than that,
was that near a train line? Is that near a train line?
I think so. Like maybe 15K and then coming back,
Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's just fantastic, and I got so many great memories of. I shouldn't be ungrateful and banging on about my bloody Olympic thing, but I got so many great memories of running, and especially great memories of running in Japan. I mean, the people are sensational, and the way they treat you is just beyond belief. It's unbelievable.
And you've represented Australia so many times at various meets. Do you have any fond memories or any good stories from trips away? Anything that?
Lots of stories. I did actually. One thing I do when someone brings up the Olympic thing, I actually remind myself I actually got a silver medal at the World Half Marathon Championship in a teams thing with Mona and John Andrews.
Yeah, I have that down here actually. I was going to ask you who was in that team.
So I do actually have a World Championship silver medal here in my keepsake. So that's pretty special. So that was a memorable trip, but just a lot of laughs. We all got on so well, and used to play cards a lot. I was hopeless at it, but we used to play poker and 500. I think is it 500?
Yeah,
play 500 and a lot of that. A lot of running of no clothes on. We did a lot of that.
Yeah.
And which is essential, I think.
Crichton still does that.
Yeah. Yeah, but and the amazing thing is we never used to talk about running.
Yeah.
So we would not once would I have had a conversation with any of those guys about what I'm thinking about doing this type of training and this is what I'm doing now. And blah blah blah, and my heart rate was doing this and whatever. Not that I'm making fun of anyone here, but we never talked about running at all. Just to take the piss out of each other. We'd jump out of trees and scare each other and all that sort of childish sort of stuff.
Yeah, and with your with marathon nutrition, so you're saying that when you did a lot of your hard long runs over at Stromlo, you basically never stopped for a drink. I guess back then you wouldn't have been having gels on long runs. It was all pretty much just. Would you eat before your long runs?
maybe a couple piece of toast and a bit of jam, cup of coffee.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, obviously doing a lot of depleted state, but then
that's how we didn't know any different. So so we became energy efficient. We were by doing this, we were teaching our bodies to store glycogen and to take us out on these long runs. So we didn't have any sort of top ups at all during it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I bang on like most weeks about how when I was a 10K runner, I'd be taking gels on 2-hour runs, and since turning to the marathon, I've taught my body to actually go 38K without having anything. I think people that are listening out there, if you can teach your body to run long distances without nutrition, I think you're going to be a better marathoner than relying on that in training.
Yeah, well, that's a skill in itself, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
I don't know whether it's something that I have that's instilled in me now, or if it's just the way my body operates. But I paddle a lot now, so I paddle a kayak on the Brisbane River. So I'll go out and I'll paddle for the best part of 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'll eat nothing beforehand. I'll have a cup of tea, and I won't take any water at all or anything while I'm out in the kayak. And I'll go out there for 2 hours, and I'll be banging away the whole time for 2 hours with no water, no bloody gels, no nothing.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because I've developed this body that I've got through years and years of going for long runs and not having any boosts beforehand. I don't have to take. I don't feel like I want to take anything.
Yeah. No, it is amazing how the body does adapt. So when did you decide to sort of, I read on your website, when did you decide to hang up your speedy shoes?
My speedy shoes?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was probably around about early 2000s. I got a virus. I used to do local fun runs and stuff, and I got a virus, and that sort of knocked me around. And then when I came back from the virus, I was nowhere near the runner that I was.
Yep.
And at that time, my running group was starting to blossom, and people in the running group, I could hear them whispers saying, Pat's always running up the front with the speedy guys, and he never worries about us down the back here. So I sort of thought, well, I'm struggling a bit with my running here, and these people are saying that I'm not going through the whole group and being supported. So I just thought, give it away.
Yeah, and so which actually leads me into my next question. Like, how did the coaching start for you?
Yeah, so there was a guy who had a triathlon group here in Brisbane, and he wanted me to just take his runners for a Sunday long run. And so I did that, and I was only like a half dozen people. I didn't know what the bloody hell I was doing it for, but I was I was still very fit, and so I'd just take these guys for a long run and whatever. And then from there, I just thought, well, maybe I could do this myself. So I just started to do a running group thing, and then my running group, just word got around. I never really advertised, and just word got around, and I was the only one doing it. This was pre-boot camp. This was pre-24-hour gym stuff, and so here's this.
So what year was this, do you reckon? What, mid-2000s?
Probably going 15 years, so probably...
Yeah.
Probably 2004, so early 2000s. So I'm doing this, it's just word of mouth. That's the only way. That's why my group grew. It was word of mouth.
Yeah.
Anyway, it just grew and grew and grew, and to the point where my record at one session was 160 people.
Yeah.
And it was just madness. It was absolute madness. Like I was getting to the point where I'm going, look, no more members. I can't do this. It's just ridiculous. I'd go home and look through the photos, or whatever, and I didn't even know half the people were there.
Yeah. and so how many do you have now? Like, sort of.
Yeah. So it's going well at the moment. So I get maybe 65 now on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll have 60 plus people there tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so we do, and maybe 30 on a Thursday and a Friday.
Yeah.
So it's taken a big hit because I believe there's other running groups around now. So when I did it, I was very innovative, and there was no one doing what I was doing, like interval intervals, like speed sessions with a large group. That's basically what we do. Hill reps, blah, blah, blah. So all in a group,
Yeah.
And I do it so that I cater for people of all abilities. So a lot of out and back stuff, so that when you turn around, the slower ones turn around and you'll catch each other on the way back.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what was your question there?
Just how many have you got, and also then do you have you'd obviously have the online component as well?
Yeah, so I would have about 130 people separate to that online at the moment.
Yep.
And so there I get a lot of clients preparing for the Gold Coast marathon, half marathon.
Yep.
10K. So I get a lot of clientele out of Gold Coast. So during the day I'm on the computer, and so I do the running group 3 mornings a week.
Yeah, right. I was going to ask you, so what a typical day looks like for you now. So was it morning sessions and then writing programs during the day?
Yeah, well, writing programs, but then conversing with people that I have written a program for. So I sent them a training program, and then encourage them to contact me throughout, and as we resolve, I reply. So there's a bit of banter going back and forth throughout the duration that I'm involved with individuals. So some people contact me on a weekly basis, and some people I'll send them a training program and I'll never hear from them again.
Yeah.
So it's sort of that's fine. That's just people just happy to get something and just go off and do it and not have to report in. But other people like to report in every week, which is fine.
Do you use any sort of I know you're old school, but do you use any sort of like Strava or anything like that to track any of the runners that you coach to see sort of their sessions, or it's just verbal communication?
Just old school, mate.
Yeah. Nice one. And then we might chat. I know I mentioned it in the intro, but you regularly get around the country doing race announcing.
Love that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but does your race announcing sort of link in a little bit with the charity work stuff that you do? Does some of that money that you maybe get from race announcing go into your charity?
No, I'll put that in my pocket.
Well, there you go. There's two questions. Talk us through the race announcing, how that came about, and maybe like your charity stuff, because it's pretty incredible the amount that you've raised over the last few years.
Yeah, so the race announcing, I think I'd start up in Noosa. I think it might have been Noosa Bolt. I used to do the Noosa Bolt commentary. And I remember one time I used to go hard. Like I had no idea about voice projection and what I was capable of, and it was all going from the throat. And one time I did a Noosa Bolt and I literally lost my voice. I had to do the presentations and I literally could not speak.
Yeah, right.
Could not speak because I'm just going absolutely burko on the mic for the 5K.
Yeah.
Anyway, from there, I started doing the Sea to Surf and the Sydney Morning Herald half, and did that for a number of years. And I can Sydney Marathon. I can go all day. So I go down there for the Sydney Marathon. I'm on the mic at 7:00, and at 1:00, I'm still going from 7:00 to 1:00, and I do not stop the whole time. I'm bellowing for 5 hours.
Yeah.
I'm just going burko for 5 hours. I might stop and go to the toilet, maybe.
Yeah.
But if I do that, I'm quickly running off to go to the toilet and come back because I'm concerned that someone's going to cross the line. I'm not going to have any atmosphere when they cross the line.
So what's the key to keeping the energy up for that period of time?
Oh, I just love it. It's good to because I can see people coming down the straight. I can feel what they're experiencing because I used to do it. I used to get it, and I just want to make it special for them, And I just get a buzz out of it. It's a high for me because I feel like a rock star. I'm on the mic. I've got I get up there at the start of the Sydney Morning Herald half each year, and there's 13,000 people there, and I'm the MC. I'm on the mic, and the voice that 13,000 people hear is me. And I just it's not an ego thing. It's just I think it's a privilege. I really enjoy doing, and I like to think that I bring something special to an event because I was an elite runner, and now I'm the MC, and like at events like the SMH half, I'm the race record holder, but I'm I'm on the mic and I'm half okay at the mic, So I just that's good.
Yeah, I'm sure it's special for those athletes as well. Like he's the fourth quickest Australian marathoner of all time, calling my name as I finish a half marathon or a marathon. So it'd be special for them as well. So
I'd like to think that I do get some good feedback sometimes from individuals and events that I work for. So and that's always pleasing. If I go there all day long and bellow for 6 or 7 hours, if I get one email or one text from some person, some random, they say, look, you made my day when I came down that straight. Well, that's it. That's gold to me. That's mission accomplished for me.
And are you down for Canberra Marathon this year?
No, I've lost that gig a number of years ago.
Okay.
I think Reedy does it now. So it's okay. He does a good job.
And charity work, how did that all come about?
Yeah, I think that maybe back in the early days, I think someone I knew, just wanted to raise some money for a childhood cancer group. Yeah. I think that might have been the first one. No, I think I started. Actually, I know I started. I was first time I started was Camp Quality. So I was an ambassador for Camp Quality. So when people came to the group for the first time, they could do a gold coin donation, and so the gold coin donations throughout the year went to the Camp Quality. So I'd go into Camp Quality every few months with a fistful of coins and say, here you go, here's the money I got from the group. Yeah. So anyway, then I went further on and just embraced the charity. I think the first one was Childhood Cancer Support Group and raised money for them. And so each year we just look at adopting a charity, and I think that the most we raised at one time was, we've gotten the 40,000 mark a couple of times. One time we got him a chair. We bought a couple of chairs for kids who have had cerebral palsy and stuff like that. And so we raised, I think it's, I haven't looked lately, but I think it's over $350,000 or $360,000 or something.
Yeah, it's got it here. So it says raised to date $358,273.51. That's incredible. That's
so that's pretty cool. So that's what we. And so this year we're raising money for Deek's Indigenous Marathon Foundation.
Yep.
So I'm quite fortunate because because I've been fundraising for a number of years. I have a fair few regulars who always come to the party. So I just send out a newsletter, and these people on my newsletter listen. So they go, yeah, here you go, Pat. Here you go. Here's your couple of grand. Here's your 500 or whatever. And so I'm fortunate in that regard that I've built up a good network of generous people that help out, and I'm sure this year, won't be any different. We don't raise the 40s anymore, but I believe that's because the world has changed with regards to charity giving, because there's so much more available now. Like with the Everyday Hero, everyone's doing it. So and everyone's asking people for money now and again, which is fine. So a lot more great charities out there who are able to raise money via the internet. So it's harder, but you certainly 15 grand or whatever is still nothing to sneeze at. So
No, you're doing a great job. Before I let you go, I think I might just ask you a question about sort of what you learned. Like, obviously you must have been pinching yourself when you moved to the AIS to train with Deke, a guy that you sort of looked up to a few years earlier. And so what did you learn from Deke and Pat Clohessy? Was there something in particular that you saw in them that sort of made them, great or whatever? Or was it professionalism or consistency?
Yeah, I guess. I'm trying to. You got to. I keep coming back to consistency. I mean, consistency is the just churning away week after week after week, like an amazing, work ethic. I remember one time I was running along with Deke, and someone said to him, it wasn't me, but someone in the group said, "Oh, how far are you running, Rob?" And he goes, "Well, what day is it?" And the guy goes, "Sunday." And he goes, "Well, there's your answer." You know?
Yeah.
And so there was just, and a culture. There was just a culture then, and I'm sure it's there now, and that you just every weekend you're just going out for that long run. Nothing's going to stand in your way.
Yeah.
And I have told this story before, and I told this with Mona at a dinner one time, and he couldn't quite remember it, but I'm sure it's true. But this is an indication of when you lock in the marathon. This is an indication of commitment, and this was how committed Mona was. This was back when he was post Edinburgh Commonwealth Games. He got bronze and 2:11. And, so he wasn't world class, but he was on the way. Anyway, so I was advised that he got offered to go to Indonesia for a 10K road race, right? And at that point in time, the guy wouldn't have been earning any money, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure this 10K race in Indonesia would have probably been offering him an airfare and probably 10 grand or something, right? Mine knocked it back. No, I'm doing long run that weekend, right? So that's the sort of belief in yourself that you need, and that's the sort of commitment that you need. Is you're training for the marathon. We're talking marathon here. You're training for the marathon. That long run is so crucial. Your weekly training, week after week after week after week, is just so crucial.
Yeah.
That of years of it, and nothing stands in your way.
Yeah.
So you gotta, and Deacon, without bloody repeating myself a million times here, Deacon and Mona were very strict in how they planned their year out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And how they would get to the next Olympics, what races they were going to do, and Jess Trengove is very much like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Lisa is. So they plan. Okay, I want to make Tokyo. What have I got? What am I going to do? What races will I do? Where am I getting it? What's the best path to get there? I wasn't really like that. I did actually, go off for the Mickey Mouse races here and there, now and again. But I had a young family, and so I was sort of half relying on that sort of income, which was was to the detriment of me at times. But I wasn't, even though I was still trained very, very hard, and I don't think anyone would have trained as hard, much more harder than what I did. But I was a little bit distracted along the way.
Yeah, yeah. And did you do a lot of gym work back in your prime, or you just got all your strength work through just hills and just training?
Yeah, just hills, yeah. So, no, we tried it a couple of times. So you speak of Sean. So Sean and I tried it a couple of times. We'd go into the gym. We'd probably keep it going for 2 weeks. I go, nah, bugger this.
Yeah.
But, it's all changed now, isn't it? With, the strength work that the runners are doing now, and my hat's off to them, good on them. It's just unbelievable. I saw one of Jess with... today with the she was doing some
roller.
workout.
Yeah, I saw that one as well.
I mean, that's just unbelievable. That's commitment.
Yeah,
that's commitment. That's sort of this is what I'm going to do to stay injury free, and you can just tell this how focused she is when she's doing that, and that's what you need to do to be great.
But then on the flip side, guys in your era were running super quick without doing that as well. So it's it's interesting to know whether it is beneficial or not, or whether just running over lots of hills.
We did have injuries though.
Yeah.
We did have injuries.
Yep.
Whereas I would like to hope that with the work the likes of what Jess is doing now, and I'm sure that the other guys that your era are doing now, I'm sure that a lot of those people are doing that. So I think that's why you would be doing that sort of work now to stay clear of the injuries. But, looking when you're comparing eras, I think when you're having a conversation like this, I think we got the opportunity here to compare eras and the advantages and disadvantages and research and whatnot. But I think what's really changed and compared to my era is we had the element of anonymity when you went to races, like no one knew what sort of shape you're in,
yeah,
right? And what you've been up to or whatever. Whereas your era, you guys know what you had for breakfast and what you bloody and whatever goes on with your Strava thing that you get up to.
Yeah.
So there's no sort of element of surprises. There's and I think back in the day, I think that made it a bit more interesting, or a bit it was just different.
Yeah. No, that's actually a good point. And thank you so much for your time today. Like you've contributed so much to the sport, and you continue to contribute. Like, at the age of 20, did you think that running would have such an impact on your life, or that you would have such an impact on running in this country?
Oh, not at all. So I was very much an underachiever when I was at school, and I went to a school reunion there last year, and they saying there was guys there saying, "Mate, you're the only one that's ever achieved anything." So I went from the greatest underachiever at school, to going to a school reunion 30 years later or whatever, and guys saying, "Mate, you're the one that's achieved something," which I don't think is I thought that wasn't true, because there was doctors there was specialists and whatever, and to me that's just fantastic on itself, right? I certainly don't look upon what I did as being better than anything the other guys would have done at the reunion. But no, there would have been a lot of guys that I went to school with who would have just been scratching their head when they're watching the news on a Sunday night going, That's not the same guy that bloody went to school with. Is that the same guy that used to get kicked out of the class all the time and bloody spend half the day down the head, which I did. Yeah. So, and spend half the day down the head. I spent more time out of the classroom than what I did here. And so they go, no, it's not him. That's not him. It can't be him.
Yeah.
It was a surprise, but I guess I do have this thing where if I get my teeth into something, then I don't let it go.
Yeah.
So that and running was like that.
Yeah. No, you've achieved a hell of a lot, and you're continuing to put back, and it just goes to show how great the sport is and how much it can, how much you can get out of it. Yeah.
And it is a great sport, and I've got it's so exciting. The young crew that are coming through now, and also the way they conduct themselves, like your mate Brady, who I messaged him on Facebook. I saw some clip that he did on YouTube there, and I think it's really important that you conduct yourself well in a public way, and people can see that you're well mannered and whatnot, and just switched on, and that certainly helps you with lots of things. But I very much look forward to seeing what Jack Rayner and Brett Robertson, isn't it? Brett Robertson, and let's not forget Michael Shelley. I mean, we've been so fortunate to have Michael Shelley, and he's a bit of the quiet achiever, really, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, had him on your show?
Not yet. No, I have hit him up for it though. So he's, you know what Michael's like. He's a little bit shy at times.
Oh, he's not really. Yeah. He's fine. I've been at things with Michael, and he's fine. So, it's just amazing. Like his run down the coast last year, that was bloody hot that day. So that was just absolutely amazing. And and when he won the Commonwealth Games there the first time, Miner said to me, he said that wasn't an easy course. Like he was over there, and Michael ran 2:11, won the Commonwealth Games, and so he's been, to know that we've had dual Commonwealth Games gold medalist, and along with him and Deke and Mono, and let's not forget to acknowledge Michael Shelley, and the girls, we'll be here all day if we start talking about the ladies.
Yeah, they're absolutely killing it, aren't they? Yeah. I'll tell you what, Sinead, Sinead, like the fact that, she's only a couple of years older than me, and the fact that she's running like, PBs at her age, it sort of gives me hope not to hang up the shoes yet.
Oh no, don't do that. But no, Sinead's going fantastic. Lisa and Jess, and and just great. I've met them all, and just great ladies. Unbelievable ladies.
Yeah. Well, great, Pat. Thanks for your time, and might see you up on the Gold Coast.
Too easy.
See you, mate. Bye.
Ciao, mate. Bye.